Did the Saiyans originate from one planet or two? Welcome ladies and gentlemen to this video about the convoluted history of the Saiyans. So I wish to remind you that this is my If I Were to Write It series. So what I want to do is I will first give you a summarization of the history that we have been taught by the show. And then I will give you my own, more streamlined history. And then I will ask you which version you would like better. Do you like the original version or do you prefer mine? Now to start things off, I need to start, I guess, in the same order as the information has been given to us. Now in my introduction video I talked about how Akira Toriyama is an in-the-moment writer and he sort of comes up with stuff on the fly. Which means he needs to retcon stuff or explain it differently if he wants to shoehorn new information in there or change something. And that he did with the history of the Saiyans I think more than once. So when we start off with the Saiyans is with Reddit, because Reddit is the one who reveals to the audience that Goku is in fact an alien from planet Vegeta. What he says is, and I'm not going to get the timeline thing here correct because I'm terrible with timelines, is that he is from planet Vegeta and planet Vegeta is destroyed. This also means that Akira Toriyama doesn't have to make up the entire planet and the history and the people and the culture and whatnot because it's already gone. So Goku comes from a now destroyed planet. And later Goku arrives on King Kai's planet in sort of the heavenly world. And King Kai explains to him sort of the history of his own people from the Saiyans. What he explains is that the Saiyans were a very primitive warrior species who coexisted on the same planet with another species, which in the English dub are called the Tuffles. But in Japanese they are called the Sufurijin. I will repeat that one more time. Sufurijin. Sometimes I hear people, I think, pronounce it as Tufurusejin, or that was just me when I first read it. But in English it's called the Tuffles. So if you hear me say the Sufurijin, Tufurusejin, or Tuffles, I'm speaking about the same alien species. Just so you know, those could be my pronunciations if I forget a good one or make a mistake. The Sufurijin, or Tuffles, lived on this planet and coexisted with the Saiyans. And King Kai says that the Saiyans were in very low numbers, which could be explained via their violent nature, that they sort of kill one another off. But eventually they sort of united, the tribes united, and out of nowhere they attacked the Tuffles. And the Tuffles were a very advanced civilization, kind of like ours, but even more advanced, more in the future even. But because the Saiyans were actually a lot larger, the Tufurusejin were actually sort of midget-like creatures, they were absolutely crushed, but they couldn't quite destroy them until a full moon happened. Which in some translations is every 80 years and in some other translations is 100 years. That on planet Vegeta it takes to get a full moon going. That is in and of itself strange, but I guess I cover that in a video based about the Uzahu form itself. That won't be important right now, but the idea is that they defeated the Tufurusejin, the Tuffles, during a full moon. That's where the decisive victory was won. But because they needed villains in later seasons, they brought back the Tuffles as they sort of survived via a spaceship and they came back in the forms of Baby and Bobby. I think it's pronounced Bobby, but everybody calls him Baby because you write it the same as Baby. I call him Bobby, fuck it. Bobby and yeah, that red dude with the green stuff who has a really hard to pronounce name, which I'm not bothered to Google right now. Anyway, the idea is simple. The Saiyans took over the planet, destroyed the other inhabitants, became the dominant species, air quotes, and they developed space travel. Only in the English dub it says that then they met up with the Arcosians, or Arcosians, however you wish to pronounce that. However, that is not Japanese, that is something the Ocean dub or something made up, but later versions still used that name, the Arcosians. And it is sort of accepted in the fanbase that those are in fact Frieza species. But that's not the case. They're not the Arcosians. A lot of other great YouTubers that do cover Dragon Ball have a lot of videos covering this. Geekdom had an entire video devoted to the Arcosians, explaining them. If I remember to, I will link it down in the description so you may see it. But in this story it is that they met up with the Arcosians, which are a more developed civilization, with technology-wise of course. But their planet was basically a ruin. Most likely global warming and other forms of pollution. Or maybe it's just very difficult, like desert-like planet where life is very difficult. But anyway, They hired the Saiyans as sort of mercenaries. They gave them money and technology, and the Saiyans fought their battles for them, and it was sort of an alliance. Now the end to all of this came when the Guardian, a Guardian like Kami, or the one who came before Kami on Earth, but a Guardian on planet Vegeta, saw that the Saiyans were becoming a purely evil race that ran around, took other planets and killed lots of people, and he decided to end it all with a meteor shower, summoning meteorites from space and destroying the entire planet Vegeta, and therefore only Nappa, Raditz and Vegeta survived the extinction of their entire species by their Guardian, who wanted to prevent the universe from becoming a worse place because of the Saiyans. This, of course, is majorly retconned, like, only a few episodes after or so. Like, the next saga, we are immediately introduced, no, not a few episodes, but the next saga, saga. You have an arc and a saga. And a saga is stories within a major arc, and the major arcs are called to the villain, that's sort of the main bad guy from that arc. But the next saga is the Planet Namek saga, I believe, after the Saiyan saga. And therein it is revealed that it was in fact Frieza who destroyed Planet Vegeta. And he did so because he was afraid of the Saiyans rebelling. So Frieza was afraid of the Saiyans rebelling, and he was afraid of the legend of the Super Saiyan. So he decided to destroy the planet. And all remaining Saiyans were told the planet was hit by an asteroid, sort of making up for the previous story. But they could continue to serve Lord Frieza, and Lord Frieza would provide for the surviving Saiyans as long as they remained loyal warriors, of course. Then even later in Super, it is revealed that not Emperor Frieza came up with the idea of destroying planet Vegeta on himself, but in fact it was Lord Beerus who told Frieza to destroy planet Vegeta. What? It's like, first it was an asteroid, then it was an evil emperor, and now it is a god of destruction telling an evil emperor to destroy the planet. And it becomes even more convoluted after this one, in specials and other TV episodes, and video games even, which got specials. Like, I believe, like, I'm not entirely caught up, but if I understand correctly, the Saiyans were originated from another planet called Planet Salad. Actually, I messed up. It's called Planet Sadala. I repeat, Planet Sadala. But Planet Saladar was uninhabitable anymore, so they had to leave and find another planet, and they found Planet Plant. Now, when they found Planet Plant, it was already inhabited by sort of purple-ish aliens, which evolved into the Tuffles or something. I don't know. At this point, I don't care anymore. But they invaded that planet, and either there were Tuffles there and they killed all the Tuffles, or the Tuffles evolved there and the Saiyans killed all of them. But that story doesn't make sense for the fact that if the Saiyans already have space technology and they travel to that planet, then why would they revert all the way back to the Stone Age, kill the Tuffles, regain space technology, go travel in the universe, and then die again? That makes no sense, right? And now Yamochi comes, Yamoshi, which is the name of the legendary Super Saiyan. One more correction, he actually isn't the legendary Super Saiyan. So during the editing process I realized I made a mistake on terms of the legendary Super Saiyan part. Basically this comes down to misinformation. I get my sources from other YouTubers mostly, because I have dyslexia and I can't read forums or can't read Daisenshu's or something else, so I watch other videos. And the original series, of course. And Yamoshi comes from an interview from Akira Toriyama, and I saw that in 2 YouTube videos. One from Laughingstock Media, and he claims he is the legendary Super Saiyan. And one is from Geekdom 101, and he claims he isn't the legendary Super Saiyan. And Geekdom has the interview and has the translation of that interview. And I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but basically Akira Toriyama tells the story of Yamoshi, and then the interviewer asks, so is he the legendary Super Saiyan, the one that Frieza feared? And Akira Toriyama answers, in a sense, he is. In a sense. So that's sort of up for interpretation, what he meant by that. And I think what he meant by that is, Yamoshi is a Super Saiyan, just as in the legend of the legendary Super Saiyan, and Frieza fears Super Saiyans because of the legend of the legendary Super Saiyan. So he is a Super Saiyan, like in the legend, but he's not the legendary Super Saiyan from the legend. He is the Super Saiyan God. from the Namekian Book of Legends, but he is not the original legendary Super Saiyan, if I'm correct. Yamoshi, Super Saiyan, not legendary Super Saiyan. So at this point the Saiyans originate from 2 planets. The species they kill to obtain Planet Vegeta are 2 species. One of them comes back and the other one never does. They meet up with the Arcosians or with Frieza's species, and then they are wiped out again, either by a Guardian or by an evil alien emperor, or by an evil alien emperor controlled by Beerus. Those are basically all the versions that have been told to us, and it's very convoluted and a lot of retconning, and it doesn't make any sense anymore, basically. So, what would be a better explanation for their history? Okay, so now it's time for basically my version. But I like to fix more than just this history problem. There are more problems that you could potentially fix in here. Such as the language problem. When Raditz came to Earth, he and Goku spoke the same language. Why is it that the humans speak the universal language of English, even though there are other languages out there? And why do a lot of aliens appear human? Saiyans look almost exactly like humans. Jace, Salsa and Sarbon look very human-like, and there are numerous aliens, canon and non-canon, which appear very human. So now we have the Tuffles, we have the humans, we have the Saiyans, we got Jace, and we got Sarbon, which are probably 2 different species. All very human-like in appearance. And if this was... it wasn't evolution, because evolution is sort of like the infinite possibility, right, to evolve. Just random genetic mutation. I personally don't believe in it, but if that was the case, it would be very hard to argue that all of the aliens happened to look the same. But if you go by, for example, the Kai are gods of creation, and they too look somewhat human. They look kind of like elves, basically. If they created all the species, then maybe they just created the species in their sort of image, in their appearance, right? They all created... not all the aliens don't look like humans, but all the species that are created look like Kai. But that isn't the case, because other species look very different. Frieza's species, the Chaldeans, the Namekians look very different. Dodoria looks very different. So there are a lot of alien species that look very different from this sort of human look, whereby others look very similar. Now, why is all of that? I actually came up with a pretty clever solution, which could set the Tuffles up for a pretty major villain story arc, but I haven't thought of that story arc, so I will try to keep just brief to this history section. What if the Tuffles were sort of the original species, right? And they created both the humans and the Saiyans, and other species. And they were a large galactic empire before their empire collapsed, and only left, some remnants in it in the forms of hybrid species and the things they created behind before they vanished for thousands of years, only to reappear in some sort of sinister arc about, the Tuffles re-emerging. What if the Tuffles settled on Planet Vegeta, terraformed it, with their extremely advanced technology about bioengineering and whatnot, created a warrior-class servant race? They tried to create, because they themselves are very smart but very weak, they themselves created the Saiyans as a sort of warrior class. And Planet Vegeta was nothing more than a petri dish. And this is all revealed in When They Return, basically, and not something that Saiyans already know. And what if the humans were supposed to be a fast-breathing workforce, which are very smart to solve solutions, but also durable, but not excelling in either of them extremely, like as smart as the Tuffles or as tough as the Saiyans? And what if they created more servant races which were hidden or destroyed? Sit back and relax as I convey to you my version of the Saiyans' history. Now long, long ago, I don't have a timeline, I'm horrific with timelines, but long ago, there lived a race called the Tufurujin, but everybody called them Tuffles. And the Tufurujin had a vast galactic trading network, trading minerals, knowledge and building materials all across the galaxy, with one universal trading language. This granted the Tufurujin a technologically advanced civilization, and eventually they decided to meddle with their evolution. However, experimentation on your own kind was prohibited, so they started to terraform planets and create genetically altered clones across the galaxy. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where our story today begins. The Saiyans were created on a planet that they will come to call Planet Vegeta, and they were created as a warrior class, a military designed for one purpose only: combat. Now these seeming savages weren't quite Forrest Gump, and eventually they rebelled. Rebel they did. At first the Tuffles seemed to hold out against the Saiyans quite fine with their advanced technology and superior numbers, but when the full moon came around, it wasn't a pretty sight to behold. The Tuffles were forced to flee their own experimentation planet, and what was left of their settlements became ruins of a forgotten past. The survivors fled into space, but in a last-ditch effort to hit the reset button they launched an asteroid towards planet Vegeta. However, the Saiyans survived. Ages passed, and the Saiyans' culture developed like any other. From simple Stone Age tribes they became warring classical clans. Sort of how you imagine orcs to be. They war among themselves. Fight for the strongest, and the strongest will rule. Within these archaic days, Super Saiyans were a sight to behold, but were not uncommon. The Saiyans knew that one could ascend through battle to new heights and become one of the living gods. These tales will be written down in poems as living legends, and passed on to their children as bedtime stories. Eventually one powerful warlord managed to unite the tribes, or some of them, and conquer a large portion of Vegeta, forcing them in a more modern age. Now it is said that a man by the name of Bardock, no, not the one you think of, another one, deciphered the ancient ruins of the Tuffles and propelled them into the Space Age. Now during the Space Age, the Saiyans became a force to be reckoned with. No alien civilization was left unchallenged. Seeking out worthy opponents, they forged alliances with other strong warrior races, but weak ones were preyed upon. They acted like the ancient Scandinavians, not destroying an entire civilization at once, but raiding parts of it once at a time, looking for technology, resources, wealth, and slaves. Also good food. Even settling in small outposts, setting up a trading network. At last, the decadence of civilization corroded the Saiyans away. Their collective power levels dropped, and over a span of 1,000 years no new Super Saiyan was seen. They once were like a raging dragon that now had collected its treasure and took it back to his dungeon and grew fat as it slept. And then, from the darkest reaches of the cosmos, a new foe emerged. The Chaldean Empire. A well-established galactic empire far greater than that of the Saiyans. And at the helm of this newfound invading armada, Emperor Cold. Lord Cold and the Saiyans fought epic battles with numerous casualties. However, the sheer amount of resources that King Cold had to his possession, or Lord Cold had to his possession, eventually wore the Saiyans out, and he won the battle, settling this war himself by dueling the leader of the Saiyans. The Saiyans were assimilated into the Chaldean Empire, and now had to serve Lord Cold, but he resided, and rulership of planet Vegeta fell under Frieza's control. Frieza commanded the Saiyans to conquer planets by bringing its civilizations down to its knees. Even though they didn't have to kill the inhabitants to every last man, they had to destroy the large cities and break their military force. So there was no resistance left when Frieza took over. And eventually the endless string of wars began to increase the collective Saiyans their power level, and Emperor Frieza began to realize their dangerous potential. Fearing their ancient legends to be true, he set about to destroy planet Vegeta himself. He lied to the survivors about an asteroid striking the planet, taking them lovingly under his wing, but killing those who rebelled. Under Frieza's command, the Saiyans had to carry out suicidal guerrilla missions, until one day, Reddit, the eldest son of the rebel Bardock, found his younger brother, the legendary Super Saiyan Kakarot, rekindling the Super Saiyan power. It was Kakarot who killed Frieza and avenged his entire species. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is the history that I would write if I were to write a history for the Saiyans. I would like to know what your opinions are on my little version. Leave a comment down below. If you have your own version of their history, leave that version down below, or a link to where I can find it. Keep in mind that there's dyslexia, so if you wrote an entire Bible worth of information, then I'm not going to plow through it, I'm afraid. Leave a like, maybe subscribe. Check out the other content I made, And the next video I want to make is a video about the Saiyans, their culture. How would I imagine their culture to be? And I also want to make a few videos about their biology and how I think their sort of body works and how transforming into an Azahu works. What triggers that? Why do hybrids obtain faster Super Saiyan transformations? And what are their downsides? Now I know that some of those questions are answered with supercells, but I got an opinion on that, and I would just share that with another video. So, you see me later. Until next time.